Hello, everybody. I seem to be frozen a little bit. Sorry, hold on. Hold on. Hello, everybody. Sorry, my whole computer crashed. I'm not sure if anyone can hear me or see me. I think they can. It looks like Glenna down there and my guests are smiling, so that might be a good sign. Anyway, it's always lovely on a Tuesday early day to have a wonderful surprise of everything crashing as you're about to start your show. Anyway, welcome everybody to Around the World with Duff. It is Tuesday, July 7th. Sorry, I always have to check because I have no idea. I don't even know what year it is. So thanks for joining us. For those of you who haven't joined the show before, Around the World with Duff. It's me, Duff. I'm going around the world is me visiting people in different countries and finding out what their current state of affairs are, because things are changing rapidly, as you can see by the by the news. Every 3 seconds, there's something new happening, and a new statistic and a new way to live our lives. So I wanted to connect with people one-on-one, or in this case, 3-on-1 or 4, and just find out what's happening on the ground with people without any news media or safety nets happening. This is just me talking to people one-on-one. So it's been very eye-opening, as you can, if you've listened to my other shows and watched the other shows on YouTube. It's been a real eye-opener, and actually it helps me gain perspective, a broader perspective on things when you hear people in, for example, Japan, where the population is very high, but the numbers and cases are very low, and they are testing. It's just that their way of life is different, and they know how to lock her down. And that's the key for us, to lock down. So anyway, thanks for joining us. For those of you just joining, we've got Christina here from Ireland, always tuning in. Thank you so much. And Karen, thank you. Thanks for joining. And of course, my guests standing by in the wings. So this show happens on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 1 p.m. Today, it was Eastern Standard Time. I don't know if Glenna, who works at the United Nations, knows that Eastern Standard Time is actually Toronto time. So I don't know if Island time is different than Toronto time, but apparently things are different down in Grand Cayman. So I'm just jazzing her. So this show, yes. So I don't have any guests coming up for the rest of the week. I'm trying to just process what's happening in the news, and so I'm just going to kind of go with the flow and see what happens. And just a couple of things today for news. Ringo Starr is 80s. Oh my God, I can't talk. 80 years old today. Ringo Starr. That's right. And a couple other notes in the news. Brazilian president tested positive today. Well, that'll be interesting, won't it? He was taking hydrochloroquine. So take that as a lesson, my friends, that the hydrochloric, whatever the hell it's called, does not help. And that's your first. And also, I think his assistant went to Mar-a-Lago and tested positive as well. So as far as we know, he was positive for quite a while. Yes, and as you know as well, I like to tune into my favorite country, Lesotho. I am obsessed with Lesotho, South Africa, the landlocked country that lives at a very high altitude. This is Lesotho. I love Lesotho. These are the little villages that exist up on top of that little mountain. This is the highest waterfall in South Africa. And I was following quite closely to their count number. That's one reason why I hooked onto Lesotho, is because they had almost 0 cases. Unfortunately, Lesotho has, I think, around 91 cases and has increased, but still 0 deaths. And that is because they, I believe, do not put people on respirators right away on the tubes, right? They turn people over. They're giving them a certain high doses of vitamin D, and they're just treating them differently. Oxygen, which is very important. So I believe that's what is doing it. It's also 1,700 people though were tested in the country, and it's a population of 2.1 million. So yes, there's some, I'm sure, a lot more people who are positive cases there, but they're doing their best in Lesotho. I still support Lesotho. even though their former first lady, was arrested for murder. And so they're having some unrest as well with the government there. So all the best to my friends in Lesotho. And my friend Fajar, who's from Dubai, he's the one that turned me on to Lesotho. So yes, so that's and also I want to just visit the fact that this virus is airborne. I always thought it was airborne myself, but there was like a whole roundabout, and now we're back to it being an aerosol virus that can last on surfaces for long periods of time. And I just want to visit that situation, which means that we should be wearing masks, and if you can, an N95 mask would be very helpful. But anything, and social distancing is the best, and staying out of large groups. Just always have to say that every show. Yes, so this is my little COVID update. The numbers are still rising in the U.S. As you can see, it's almost solid red in the USA. U.S., Brazil, and India are leading the numbers. Almost 3 million now, my friends, in confirmed cases in the U.S., 1.6 million in Brazil. Hopefully the old Prez there will wake up. And in India is rising as well. So, these are countries with large populations, very tightly knit communities. But I'm still hopeful with the number of deaths. What we really want to worry about is when the death rate starts to rise. It is rising in the U.S., of course. Canada is doing quite well on that front. As you can see here, Canada, the curve, new cases are going down, and what I think is really important is the number of people that have recovered. So in Canada, we've had 105,000 confirmed cases, but 70,000 have recovered. And so as you can see the numbers there, the cases, the little graphs. Alberta, still watch out. Alberta, British Columbia as well. They're flatlining, but it's not going down. It's staying, flattening the curve is the important part. But as my guests will notice, Saskatchewan actually has had a little peak there. So our friends out on the prairies need to still be vigilant in their daily lives and not get too lackadaisical in that. So as you know, today my guest, I'm not going to keep them waiting too much longer. My guest is my first cousin and her two daughters who are in Cayman. Cayman has only 201 cases and 1 death, and 194 have recovered. So that's really good. I'm glad you guys are somewhere safe. And the population there is 52,000. So that's pretty good for Cayman. Let's just look at Cayman. Yeah, that's where these guys are. I'm leaving next week to join them in Grand Cayman. That's going to be me right down there on that little water slidey thing. I'll be there probably by Friday. This is where Grand Cayman is situated, close to Cuba and Central America there, and not too far off of Miami and the Bahamas. So I want to talk to those guys because Florida is not doing too great in terms of case numbers as well. So I'd like to know how they're sort of securing the little country of Cayman. Before I ramble on too much longer, I'm going to bring in the girls. Ladies and gentlemen, the girls. Hi, guys. Oh, and of course, I can't hear you. That's great. Oh, they're muted. Hold on. Let me unmute you guys.
There we go. Can you hear me?
There we go. Hello, cousins.
Wow.
Hi, girls. How are you doing?
All over the world.
Yeah. You're joining around the world. I'm glad you guys got yourselves together quickly. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're accustomed to time zone differences, but we were thinking 2 o'clock instead of 12 o'clock. Either way, 1 hour this way. We're on island time.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter. We still made it. I mean, I'm happy actually it came out of my little technical glitch too. That it almost didn't happen. So how are you all faring down there in Grand Cayman? I'm trying to feel sorry for you, but I can't.
Yeah, we're doing good here. So first, my name is Glenna, and I'm Duffy's, for all of you guys joining in. I'm Duffy's first cousin. Our mothers were sisters.
Yeah.
Bless their souls. And this is my eldest daughter, Savaria. And my youngest daughter, Angelina. Sabi and Annie. And my husband, Charlie, he's in a meeting right now with UNICEF. So we're all working from home, basically.
Right. Yeah. So Glenna, can you just tell me a little bit about, just so people know who you are and what your history is, just a little bit of how you got to Grand Cayman and what your journey has been with. I know it's like, we'll see you in a couple hours.
No, I'll make it short. So definitely spend our summers together.
Yeah.
Swimming in the pool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And Auntie Doreen used to take such good care of us, and raiding the raspberry patches and stuff like that.
Yes.
Anyway, I joined this interesting group when I was doing my Bachelor of Commerce at U of S. It was called ISEC,
right?
The Association of International Economic and Commerce Students. And I started traveling that way. And then I ended up working with the UN in Geneva, one of my backpacking travels.
Oh.
And from the UN Conference on Trade and Development, I went over to UNHCR, the UN Agency for Refugees,
right?
And fell in love with it and started working with them. I did some training in Geneva, their headquarters, and then I went out to Armenia, and then from Armenia to former Yugoslavia, from former Yugoslavia back to Geneva to finance department. From there to, well, that's where Savaria was born then. She joined the team.
In Geneva? You were born in Geneva, Savaria?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Does that make you a Genevian?
No.
Genoa.
And then from there we went to Venezuela, and then from there we went to Jordan, where Angelina joined us.
Jordanian.
Yeah. And then from there we went to Bangladesh, and from Bangladesh to New York, where UNICEF headquarters is. Yes. And so sometimes my husband leads and I follow, and sometimes I lead and he follows.
Right.
And the kids go to international schools all the time in English, wherever we are. So they've had lots of experiences. And the good thing with all this new technology is they can keep up with their friends much, much easier. Yeah. So when they move from duty station to location, then it's much easier for them to bridge those gaps, so to say.
So
and then I decided to take leave without pay for now from UNHCR and to pursue a PhD. So I actually pursued a Master's of Science out of London. I did it by long distance study. Right. And I did it in public policy because I was very much interested in government policy, United Nations policy, making good policy. And then I had an opportunity to go back to the U of S, and they had opened up a postgraduate studies at Johnson Shoyama graduate school. And so you can do master's there or you can do PhD there. It's only grad studies. And wow, it's a gem. It's a gem for U of S. You know, U of S has some wonderful things like the all the different research. They've got VIDO there also, which is doing the vaccines for COVID. And they've got the nuclear reactor science center there. It's just fantastic stuff they're doing there. Anyway, it's a small grad school, and I started doing my PhD there, and now I'm doing it online. So Savaria is doing her LLB in Liverpool, England. Yeah.
Wow, great.
She came home also just before the lockdown.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, Angelina goes to school here at Community International School, which is an IB system. Sorry, Cayman International School. Too many schools to go through. Which is an IB school, or an International Baccalaureate school. And she's going into grade 10.
And so that's all online, you guys?
So we were really lucky. Charlie Harach, my husband, he came home. So first Savaria came home just before the lockdown. So she was allowed to self-isolate at home. So we didn't leave for 2 weeks. So we packed up with groceries, and then when she arrived at the house, we didn't leave for 2 weeks, and neighbors just brought us in fresh milk and stuff like that.
Right.
And then we had no symptoms or anything. And then my husband was in Bangkok, and they started to close down the office, and people started working from home. And then the island here was going to close. They had already closed the cruise ships, all the ports of entry, and then they started to close the airport now. So we got him on a flight in through London, but he had 10 hours to pack to Bangkok, apartment, office, get on the flight to London, and 2 flights were canceled. Then it was opened. He got one before the airport in Bangkok closed. And then he got into London, and then he took the evacuation flight here. But he had to, now the new rule is no self-evacuation, or no self-isolation, pardon me. You have to isolate in a government facility, controlled facility. So he was 2 weeks and a bit in a hotel room, and they were not allowed out. And, you have to stay isolated because some of them didn't understand the pure isolation, or they couldn't, manage, the neighbors bringing in food and stuff like that. So they decided it was safer to contain it right from the beginning. So he stayed there for 2 weeks, spent his birthday in isolation. We could take him like cake and food and his fun stuff like that. But so it's still going on in Cayman. So if you come to visit us, Duff, you're going to spend 2.5 weeks in a hotel room, not a room.
Right. Well, if you guys bring me cake and goodies, I'm fine.
You do your show from there.
Yeah. So your schooling, girls, has all been online then? From, I guess school just ended. Is that right? It's just you're on summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Navi's happened in April, so she came in the end of March. Pardon me.
Yeah.
Right.
And all her lectures were put online, and you could watch them at any time.
Yeah.
So asynchronous learning, because kids had gone all over the world, back to Asia, back to Africa, back to Americas.
Right.
So she watched the videos online at her own time. They still had your group chats with your fellow students.
Yeah. I still talk to all my friends.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's the great thing. You guys are lucky that you have that, right? That connection. And like, so Angelina, so you are, how do you feel about all this moving around from country to country?
I like it, I guess.
You do?
Yeah. I mean, it's sad to leave, but it's also fun to experience new things, I guess.
Yeah, right. And has this whole lockdown thing, what has that been like for you guys?
Well, for the first month, I think the beaches were closed and our pool was closed.
Right.
So that, like, during that part, we were going a little crazy, but then they opened the pool, and then we've just been going there like every day. So it's pretty good. Yeah, and we're allowed to eat at restaurants now, so it's pretty much back to normal.
And is it all social distancing like in restaurants, or is it just normal, regular?
Social distancing as well.
And everybody wears masks here.
Yeah.
Oh, do they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It must be difficult when it's so hot, like, because it is very hot there, right? Humid?
Yeah.
No.
Well, wouldn't maybe want to exercise with a mask on outdoors, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to exercise at all.
Oh, you are related to me, that's for sure. So, Glenna, so how did you meet Harach in the beginning? What through, I guess, obviously through UNICEF overseas?
Yeah, no, he wasn't working with UNICEF at that time. He was teaching at the university in Armenia,
right. And
he had a construction firm also. So one of the first private businesses that started up after the collapse of the communist state, and Armenia became independent. So he was building the French embassy. He was building Russian embassy, different things like this. So he also won the contract for the United Nations office to renovate it. So we had a building from the government, but it needed renovation. So he won the contract. So we worked together actually for a year. And then about a year later, he asked me out for dinner.
Ooh.
Rest is history.
Well, I mean, you're an incredible woman.
We were actually, I wouldn't help him find a job or anything. I told him, just go fly on your own. I don't need anybody depending on me, you know.
Good for you.
And, we went out for a dinner party, and he met somebody at this dinner party in Switzerland, and the guy hired him a month or two later. He was just fascinated with his qualifications, you know, both in the academic world and the private sector. And then he joined UNICEF on a consultancy.
Yeah.
And they loved him so much, they immediately brought him on regular staff, just because he's just such a honest, hardworking guy, and very smart, of course, and a good sense of humor.
Right.
So the rest is history. And then they say, "Oh, your wife helped you get the job." He's like, "Oh, no.
That's good.
And the beauty is, Armenia he's quite from a traditional family where, you know, the wife would stay at home and take care of the kids. But we actually built our own little world, and and takes care of the kids. And sometimes I go and lead, and if I get a better posting than him, he'll let me lead. And with Savary in Venezuela, and then he stayed home with Angelina a bit. And I often do my master's or my PhD, and he takes time off and plays tennis, and we just have that flexibility.
Well, that's an interesting connection. Like, it must have been there must have been a lot of negotiating when you first met him because of his culture. And we come from a very, like, in Saskatchewan, where we're from, it, you know, the women are very independent, and so that, how did you negotiate that? Did you say no? That's not how things.
We were matched. We loved doing sports. We loved the academic life. We loved the humanitarian work. There had been a big earthquake in Armenia, and he was called in to work at that when he was still quite young in his career, and it really had a big impact on him. Yeah. He was really fascinating. So we had many interesting ideas. Right. In common. And then, we just went step by step. We didn't, draw boundaries or, come up with some 5-year plan or something like that. We just kind of went along, and you like to cook. If I like to carry luggage, I'll carry luggage. You can do whatever. You don't have to say the woman has to cook and the man has to carry the luggage. Just, or who drives the car. I mean, just feel what you feel and just go with the flow. Right. So now you ended up in Grand Cayman. Now, why? I know that I think I read somewhere that United Nations owns Grand Cayman, or has some. Nothing. Oh. The UK, so Grand Cayman is an overseas territory of the UK. Right. Okay. And there are basically no refugees here or anything. No UNICEF premise here. Nothing like that. Okay. We basically, you're going to get a laugh out of this. So Charlie's near retirement. So him, being good in finance and management, and myself also, we said we have to plan well in advance. Yeah. So we had a list of countries that we thought we could potentially retire in, and Canada being too cold. Yeah. Armenia being too far away. Right. We were selecting countries. So Switzerland was one option, Spain was another, Thailand was another, and Grand Cayman Islands kept coming up. And the first most important thing was education for our children. And so there's actually a law school here, university, which is under Liverpool. Right. So Savary technically can study law here if she wants to do her bachelor here. Really? That's amazing. Sorry. Yeah. A lot of people go up to Liverpool because they want that kind of undergrad experience of, living alone and, kind of more action up there. Yeah. And, were you enjoying it up there, Savary?
Yeah, I love it.
It's such a exuberant country, right?
Yeah, it was excellent.
And you made a lot of friends when you got there? It was like instant? Irish people are very friendly, right?
I was actually really shy the first couple of days, but really? Then, the rest is history. The people I met there are like second family to me now.
Oh, that's amazing.
In the northern part of England, and what they have there is a lot of the students are from that neighboring area. Yeah. And they go up into Liverpool. So she lived in a dorm the first year, and they're all kind of shy away from, family for the first time. Right. And they really bonded, and they've actually got, there were 12 in the floor of that dorm, and they actually, for second year, they got 2 houses.
Oh.
To each other, nearby each other, and they're all going to crash in those 2 houses. They've 6-bedroom houses, 2 bathrooms, large kitchen, made basically for students.
Yeah.
Great. So you guys will have like tea in the afternoon.
Yeah. And lemonade.
Drinking or partying. It'll be
Now you have to know the drink of Liverpool, right?
What's that?
The famous drink of Liverpool.
No, what is it?
Lemonade.
Oh, lemonade?
Pink gin.
Oh,
Pink gin with lemonade.
It's so good.
oh,
It's really so good.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And people from Liverpool are called
Scousers.
Scousers.
Really? Oh. Oh, this is actually perfect because this is Ringo Starr's birthday today, and I think he was.
Exactly. You can go to the cave. We went to see the cave where cavern. Pardon me.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so you've all been there already? Like you've.
Yeah.
You've been there too. Oh, cool.
Yeah. We did a tour.
Wow.
And Angelina has. So Savaria is going. There's an evacuation flight for all students going from Grand Cayman to England. So they'll fly into London. They've got 2, one at the end of July and one at the end of August for students who are going back. So they've organized it all to make sure every student gets back there.
Oh, so you're going to go back.
Studies will be a bit online.
Yeah.
They all want to get back to that,
But at least you'll be in your school, right? And with your mates.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be great. That's nice.
Yeah.
You're like, yes, please.
Cayman's great, but
you always have the Cayman to go to, which is like an incredible option too, right? So
yeah.
So Glenna, do you plan on? So do you plan on going back to New York back to the United Nations, or?
So I'm on leave for now, and not sure. I'm going to be on leave without pay until I finish my PhD. So I'm just finished all my classes, and I got 83% overall.
Woo-hoo!
You can do it at any age you want. You don't have to
exactly.
be 30 years old. You can do it at any age. And I have a big comprehensive exam in mid-August, and then a 10,000-word literature review due at the end of August. And then we do an oral interview. We find we pass or fail.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed for me, everybody. And after that, then we start, if all goes well, we start our research. It takes a couple of years so I'm working on research. It's going to be more around disaster risk reduction and especially hurricanes and wild storms, the increase in the frequency and the increase in the ferocity of them. And that affects all the world, but especially those small island states.
Yeah.
So I'm looking to do somewhere in that area. Not quite sure exactly where it'll be going, but somewhere in that area. And ultimately, I'd probably like to go into the teaching profession.
Right.
So we'll see if I go back to UNHCR or I kind of find another avenue out. Of course, with UNHCR, it means moving your household all the time. And all the kids, we did offer the kids regularly to go back to Canada, and to settle down, or to Armenia for that matter, to their father's home.
Yeah.
And they love being in their international schools, and they love being with people from all over the world. It was just normal for them.
Well, it's what you guys know, right? It's what you've grown up with, and it's like, it'd be maybe it's kind of boring to just be in the same place.
Yeah, we go back to Canada every summer, and we go back to Armenia every Easter.
Oh, great! That's so great. So, I want to ask you like a little serious question. I noticed that the situation of refugees in the U.S. has changed dramatically, as you probably know. The U.S. has admitted 76,000 refugees from 2017 to 2019, but which is actually quite low compared to just in 2016, they admitted 85,000 refugees. So what's your opinion on that, on what's happening?
I can't officially give you my opinion because I'm on leave without pay and I'm not an official spokesperson right now.
Right.
You know what, you raise something very important. It's a lot of the different countries have quotas for resettlement.
Right.
And there are a lot of countries who don't have quotas for resettlement, but nonetheless, they What are you doing, Annie?
Nothing.
Oh, he's playing with a gun.
More on herself. It's more like
so what happens is there's also, remember, I mean, there's official statistics like that. But to be honest, there's a lot of countries which host refugees, and they don't, have all these official statistics, and they are doing wonderful jobs providing safety and security for people who are fleeing from persecution.
yeah.
And you'll even find internally displaced people who are within their own country, and they'll flee to another part of the country to find safety.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still a lot of good happening out there. There will be, when there are changes in any government worldwide, they will change their stance. But we have our main office. Actually, it's very interesting. In the United States, we have 2 offices.
Right.
The one in Washington, D.C. covers the whole of the USA. And the Caribbean also. So Cayman Islands, as an example, would fall, if there was a refugee situation here, it would fall under Washington, D.C. office. The office in New York where I worked, it only focuses on international policy with the UN family.
Oh, I see.
That with the building where I took you, the big UN Secretariat building.
Yes.
So that's basically where we're making policy there. So even if a refugee called me at my New York office, we would have to send them over to the DC office, who gives any official statement.
Okay.
Or what to do in that case, So we were just policy people. So in different field offices, you'll have a data bank, of who's all your refugee caseload and what you can do to help them. In New York, we didn't even have that.
Right.
People, can't you help me? Can't you help me? They'd be bothering. They were saying, help me. We're like,
Yeah.
We don't even have anything. We don't even have a form that we could
Right.
do. We just do policy there.
Well, and with COVID, it must be quite the situation that's happening with refugees who've come in, right? Newly people settling. I mean, it must be just a nightmare.
Worldwide, it must be. So I've been out of it for a while now, because in September I started with my PhD. But I know that our office in New York, I still get some of my mail there, and nobody's in the office. Nobody's going into the office because the whole building, everybody's taking precautions, and they're slowly going back. UNICEF also, for example, Charlie's posted still in New York, but he's here because the office was closed for a long time, and now they're slowly bringing percentages back in just as testing models.
Right.
And really, they're following what the New York City and New York State are advising. So the UN is following that advice.
Right.
From a security point of view. Here in the Cayman Islands, they have been very, very strict. And actually, the one death wasn't from here. It was a cruise ship, and it was a elderly Italian gentleman, if I understood well. And nobody would take him in, and the Cayman Islands government brought him in.
Oh, that's interesting.
To the hospital, and he tested positive for COVID, and he passed while he was on the island, but he actually wasn't from here.
Okay.
Okay, so we have had no deaths on the island.
Wow, that's great.
But cases lately are 0, 1, 2. They have tested almost 25,000 people out of the population of, I guess, it was about 65,000 on the island. You're probably right, it goes a bit lower now.
Yeah.
But, they've done a high level of testing. They've, tested, 40%, something like this. The numbers are very low, sometimes 0, sometimes 1 or 2, but very few with symptoms, very mild.
Right.
In the hospital.
It helps that it's an island too, right? It's just geographic. I mean, that's one reason why Lesotho I was intrigued with, because it's at such a high elevation. Very few people are getting to the right to some of the parts of it. But I guess that's, and New Zealand too. I mean, and
it's a perfect example. Yeah,
not easy to get to, but well, that's really intriguing, to know. And why? So I wonder why Grand Cayman doesn't have any refugee.
Well, I don't know if they do or not. I haven't really looked into it because it's my area of domain here. But refugees generally, you will see they will tend to go. They usually flee for their lives.
Yeah, right.
They don't have, they didn't have time to stop and sell their house or sell their car or their assets. So they're coming very cash poor. So they would normally cross the nearest land border.
Yeah.
Or they would go somewhere where.
Syria to Jordan, into
Syria to Jordan or Syria, but you'll often find that they'll go to the cheapest place that they could possibly find,
right?
So that they can actually survive. Because if you had a chance to go to Switzerland, which is deem very expensive. You might want to go to Spain, which maybe is a lower cost of living, for example.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I think if you had, and Cayman Islands is very small, very strong police force here.
Yeah.
Immigration. So I think it would be pretty easy to find. You would get caught pretty easy.
Yeah.
And then you have to divide between, who's an actual refugee who's fleeing for their life and who is actually an economic migrant.
Right.
Who's looking for work. And I mean, that's, two different caseloads.
The distinction. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. For example. Yeah. So I think that it's one, it's a very expensive place to live.
Yeah.
Two, it's difficult to get here.
Of course. And you have to go, and you would go to somewhere where you have at least the opportunity to find some sort of work or carve out a life for you, right? Or
and hide a little bit more,
easy accommodation. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I don't think, but I really don't know the situation on refugees here. I just know that it's never been on our radar before. Like you'll have Haiti, of course, which will be internally displaced, or refugees, or like when the Hurricane Dorian hit to Bahamas.
Yeah.
On one of the islands, they thought it was uninhabited, but there were actually quite a few Haitians there.
Oh, really?
Our Washington D.C. office gets involved in that kind of thing.
And is Grand Cayman at all worried about the influx of people coming from Florida into those islands? Is it
everything's closed?
Do they lock it down, or is there
everything is locked
policing
down.
of the waters? And
oh yeah. And it's the UK is highly supportive of Grand Cayman as an overseas territory.
Right.
And they have given tons of testing kit support. They bring in police expertise.
Is there military there, Glenna?
They brought in
Royal Air Force.
The Royal Air Force, and they do that, if I understand well, annually.
Right.
To prepare for hurricane, just prepare to give extra support also to the police, because they were very busy during the lockdown.
Yeah.
In the situation. So, they come regularly. And of course, they always prepare for hurricane season. The last big hurricane was in 2004. It was Hurricane Ivan.
Right.
It was very destructive. So now they are preparing. They've done a lot of building back better. But they're still doing a lot to prepare for the isolation shelters, the hurricane shelters,
right,
and make sure that they're more COVID friendly. So they're very dynamic. They've really been working on this a lot. They have hazard management Cayman Islands, it's called. It's fully dedicated team to organizing things like this in advance.
So they already have medical teams, right, that are used to dealing with hurricanes. And that's an interesting point. Yeah. Well, that's I actually wanted to show people. This was Angelina and Glenna.
New York.
Glenna took us on a tour of the UN.
That's nice.
I'm sure if anyone finds out that I was in there, I'm probably going to be hunted down. But
perfectly fine. No, that's perfectly fine.
I just thought that was one of the most incredible things you did that day in New York when you took me on a tour of the the UN, and then we got into this incredible room. It was like, what is that? What's that chamber called? Is that just
this one was either the ECOSOC or Trusteeship Council, and it's right next to the Security Council.
Oh, okay.
So you guys always see on television, news service, the Security Council. So those three rooms are side by side.
Yeah.
And the other one where you had the gold in the background with the UN, that was the General Assembly Hall.
Right. Oh.
Yeah. This is the big General Assembly Hall. And the one with the brown on the back, it was either the Trusteeship or the ECOSOC.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, ladies. That you're.
That Savadia graduated there in that room.
Really?
Received her grade 12 and IDB diploma on that stage.
So how amazing was that? And so sort of like, right?
It was one of the best moments of my life.
I bet.
Getting my high school diploma in Wolseley High School, Saskatchewan High School.
Hey, Wolseley is leading the pack with they have a new movie theater. They're using the outdoor movie theater.
Oh yeah,
as the way that people can go to the movies still. So that's like incredible. And they're doing concerts
every year to the Twilight Drive-In.
Yeah.
Every year we watch the Northern Lights, and oh my gosh, the family all gets together and watches.
The Zaba
family has owned that for a long time, and kudos to Don who took it over. And there were times that it wasn't even profitable. You had to update so much equipment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he kept it going, which was really fantastic.
Oh, our cousin is chiming in, Brenda. She's
Brenda.
Girls, Brenda from Vancouver Island. Yeah.
Last time we saw was out at your farm, Duffy, at the McDonald or at the Ramage family reunion.
That's the one I missed. Oh.
Yeah, we were all out at a bonfire out at your family farm.
Oh, that's amazing. Like I can't remember what I was doing, but I couldn't leave, and it was, I think that was one of the last times that everyone got together and had a big family reunion. Were you guys there too, the late girls?
Oh yeah. So, remember Auntie Doreen? They love Auntie Doreen, by the way.
Yeah, she was quite the woman.
She was so energetic. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh, God bless her.
We've learned a lot from our parents, and that's what you guys will take away from this too, right? Like, you'll look back at your childhood and you'll be like, look at how global of a mind you have. And that's actually my whole reason for doing this show, is that I think that what right now has to happen is an education of your generation, right? And you're sort of being forced into it. Black Lives Matter and everything that's happened. You're sort of like, it's like put right in your face. And I hope that you obviously are in great schools and very smart women, and I hope that you guys will go on to lead many, many people in the future and be what your mother and father have obviously done, right? Like the apples are not falling too far from the tree. And by the way, Angelina, your glasses look beautiful. There the day you got them.
Thank you for helping selecting them, Duffy.
You look great. So I won't keep you guys too much longer. Thank you so much for doing this, and I really appreciate you coming on and giving us your perspective on what's happening down in Grand Cayman. And I will be there on Friday, so I don't care if it's in a hotel room locked up with my own. I will see you though in the near future, because
one of these days, for sure, we'll see you again in one country or another.
Yes, and say hello to your husband for me. And
yeah, will do. Yeah, thanks a lot. He regrets he couldn't be with you today.
It's okay. Maybe I'll check back in. Who knows how long this is going to go on? I might have to check back in with you.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks so much, Glenna.
Thanks to all. Take care. Be safe, everybody.
Thanks. Bye. Bye, guys. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. It's so nice to connect actually with family. This is an important thing, even just for me to connect with my family. And Glenna and I we were childhood friends, and we hung out a lot in our childhood. We were, there's certain cousins that stick in your mind when you're a kid, and Glenna was always one of those, and her sister Cece. We were a little team, and I just always looked forward to seeing them, and of course their mother and father as well. We had quite a connection. So, and I'm very proud of her for going on and making such a difference with the United Nations, and obviously with refugees, and getting a PhD at later in life. There is hope for us. I quit college in North Dakota when I was in my early 20s, late teens. And I was studying opera. I don't really regret it, but I also, I know that I could probably go back and finish what I was meant to do or was meaning to do. I think that's all I had to pass by you guys today. I just wanted to check in with Glenna down in Grand Cayman, and I'm really glad to hear that the island is locked down and that there's 0 cases. Sorry, not 0 cases, but 0 deaths and very few cases. And these are the places that we need to learn from. I love that the government has. If you enter there, you have to go into a government issued a place for isolation when you arrive. I mean, the logistics of that in a large country like ours would be tricky, but that's one reason why it's doing so well. Also on another front, Trudeau refused to join the U.S. and Mexico for the free trade meeting in the USA today. So found that kind of interesting. And Bob Ray became the new ambassador to the United Nations for Canada as well this week. So there's some things shifting and changing, and I'm really glad that our Prime Minister is sticking to his guns and not putting up with, this kind of politics that are, looming over our lives and pushing people into positions that they shouldn't be in. We got to stick to our guns and as well as humans and as the people need to stick together. Even though the government says that we should do this or that, we need to do what we think is right. If they're telling us to open up, obviously it wasn't time to open up for some cities, states, and provinces. And the people didn't listen. They were listening to the government. The government was wrong. And look what's happening. We have a huge surge in numbers and cases. So anyway, folks, have a wonderful day today. That really made my day having Glenna and her girls on. Thank you so much to my cousin Brenda for chiming in, and Karen. Thank you. Yes, it is very emotional. And also on that front, we lost someone in our community. He wasn't a friend of mine, but I knew him. And I've been speaking about him over the past, it's been how many episodes now? 17. His name is Nick Cardero. I'm sure you've heard of him on the news. He was from Hamilton, Ontario. He wasn't from Winnipeg like I thought. I think he was the same person that replaced me in Fiddler on the Roof when it went to Winnipeg from Ontario and opened up there. I think it's the same person. If not, someone can correct me. But so I kind of had a connection with him early on. And then he moved to New York, had an incredible career on Broadway and off Broadway with Bronx Tale and Bullets Over Broadway and Toxic Avenger. And then I think he did Rock of Ages as well, and Waitress. He originated the father role in Waitress. So very proud of this man. And unfortunately, he lost his life. I believe it was yesterday or the day before to COVID complications. He had blood clotting. He had holes in his lungs. He was about to have a double lung transplant, which is like incredible. And so my thoughts and prayers go out to Amanda Klutz and her family and Nick Cardero's family as well. I just wanted to pay tribute to him because that was something that was always on my mind whenever someone's, sat down beside me and without a mask on. As a couple of days ago, I was on my way to Toronto Island to enjoy the beach there. And a guy got on the ferry and was about to sit down beside me, and he goes, "Oh, do you mind?" And I said, "You can sit here, but you have to have a mask." And he said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Do you have a mask?" He said, "Yeah, I have a mask." I'm like, "Well, then you should probably put it on." And he said, "Do you want me to put it on?" I said, "Yes, I want you to put your mask on." And I didn't get angry. Tried to stay rational and calm. And then we actually had quite an interesting conversation. And I brought up Nick Cardero and said, whenever I think of people not wearing a mask, I think of the other options and the possibilities that could lead, me down or anyone down the path. It's not just me. Maybe I'm asymptomatic, right? I could have just caught it And do you want to get that from me? Do you want to be put on a respirator, or do you want to be intubated? Do you want to be, there's just so many things that people don't think about, right? The realities. It's like, and so then we had a conversation about seatbelts, and I said, well, it's the same thing. We made seatbelts, not wearing a seatbelt illegal because we had to. People it decreased the amount of deaths, and people wouldn't wear them. So you have to, at some point, say, you have to do this or you will die. Like, people just don't get it, you know? And it boggles my mind to think that it's the same thing. Wear a mask. It's like a seatbelt. There's a possibility you could contract something, or you could pass, or you could die. Do you want that? No. Do you take the responsibility also for other people's lives? You know, maybe you're not wearing a seatbelt. Anyway, it's a huge thing right now. All I know is that we need to be vigilant, wear a mask, social distance, stay out of groups as much as you can. I know it's hard because we're, you know, missing our friends and stuff, but just please, everybody, take care of each other, and take care of yourself, and just try and be nice. I know I've had a few blow ups on, you know, in the supermarket. I didn't actually have a blow up. I just put forth to someone that they should wear a mask, kind of like similar to the ferry. And I think that's important for us to actually keep telling people around us in a rational way. Would you mind wearing a mask? Would you mind doing this? You know, would you mind keeping your distance? I've done it on the subway. I'm like, please stay back. Thank you very much. That's all it takes, folks. Speak up and just speak our minds, because there's going to be some waffling when they want to keep opening up the economy. And we as citizens have to protect ourselves and our loved ones and the people around us. So on that note, everyone have a wonderful Tuesday and a wonderful week. I love you all. Thank you to Glenna and Angelina and Savaria for coming on. And I really appreciate everyone for tuning in as well. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you hopefully in the next few days. I'll try and hook up some more guests, and we'll keep the ball rolling. Have a wonderful day, guys. Cheers.